this topic is a bit, spiritualism. We're going to talk about spiritualism, mysticism. So there are a lot of ways we're talking about. There are a lot of ways. There are a lot of paths. Okay. So to reach the absolute truth, basically. So one of them, in my opinion, is the most powerful one, is extreme love. So we are talking about radical love here. A love that comes and burns inside you everything other than God. A love comes and that burns inside you everything other than God. Alright, so basically I'm gonna give you some information about Sufism, which is, you may call it mysticism in Islam. And alright, then the great mystic and tradition and history, so in Islamic history, Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi. In Western world, he known as Rumi, but in Islamic world, okay, he known as Mevlana. Okay, so I'm gonna explain this. So basically, on one hand, basically, there's a group of Orientalists, or we can say, as well as Orthodox Muslims. So we may call them Salafi or Wahhabi now in area, basically. That when they hear, people are talking about things like, poetry, love, all kind of stuff. So they say, well, this is not a real Islam. So they're just, considering Islam, philosophy has been extracted out of it. And on the other hand, so this is one group of people who thinks about mysticism in that way. And on the other hand, so we got a whole set of people, basically, even in Turkey, basically in western part of the world, I have some friends. I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. Alright. So I love Rumi. Basically, mostly he's famous in America. So I love Rumi. So, and could you just not bring God told into it? So it turns me off. All right. So let's call it beloved. All right. Okay. So after this introduction, hopefully, I guess we can start now. Okay, Sufism and Dervishes. So there'll be a lot of details now. I hope you're not gonna get bored. All right. So basically, the mysticism that we are going to be talking about today in Islam, it's called Sufism. It's a tradition. It's a way of path. So the origin and roots of Sufism lie in the life and practices of, the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad. So Sufism poses well-founded and, so we can say, interpretation of Islam. Okay. And focuses on, as I told you, so love, tolerance, and worship of God. So basically, the main concept, the main focus, love, tolerance, and worshiping God. Of course, after that, so there will be, as you see here, a lot of responsibilities. So a Sufi, which he or she followed the path, is called Sufi. Way of life is to love and be service to people. So this is really important. Okay, so it's to love, and then if you have love in your heart, so you are going to service to people. And deserting the ego or false self. So basically when we translate, the term, we just say it ego. I don't like to using this word basically. In Islam we say nefis or nefs. So, I don't know, have you guys ever watched, The Lord of the Rings? Yeah. This is the perfect representation of nefs. Remember that? My precious. Okay. My precious. Yeah. So we are talking about, if we are talking about ego or nefis that we say in Islam. So basically, the tendency in all of us which says, it's mine, it's me, it's me. I like this. No, it's not yours, it's mine. Okay, so I like this color. No, it's not yours, it's mine. So this tendency inside of us is called nefs. So the Sufi path basically focusing on deserting this nefs or ego with the power of love. And then at the end of this, period of time, this work, basically in traditional Sufi system, sometimes it may take 4 years, okay, to become, mature and then reach perfection. Okay, but at the end, so hopefully you are going to be in a place as Mevlana or Rumi reached. So the truth, the absolute truth, the God. Okay, a short, if we are going to talk about, okay, who's Rumi? Let's see. So basically, Rumi, he was born in 1207. Now, the city Balkh in Afghanistan. So basically, it's very close to also Tajikistan border. So he was born in there. And then, as I told you, his original name is Jalaluddin Muhammad, but in his life, people just name him with different titles. Okay, and his father name is Bahauddin Walid. So basically, before we talking about Rumi, so I would like to give some information about his dad. So basically, his father is also, we can say, okay, as you see here, the jurist mystic from Waksh, also known followers of Rumi, and he was very famous scholar. He was very famous scholar. At the time, they named him Sultanul Ulema, which means the master of all scholars. Yeah, he was the son of that kind of father. And then, of course, his first teacher was his father. Then, okay, this is the picture of Rumi. Early influences. We are talking about the early 13th century. At the time, there were Mongolian Empire, we may say, there were invasion. So, they had to leave due to threat of invasion by the Mongol Empire in those periods, 1215 and 1220. So that immigration, that travel, lead him to travel different cities at that time, and then in each place he learned, okay, he was educated, he was taught by the most famous scholars in those areas. So basically, this is the map. So he started his journey in Bel, then went to Baghdad, so which is now its capital city of Iraq, as you know. At that time, if you remember from the history, so Baghdad was the central of we can say science and Islamic religions. And then he went to Mecca, and then he finished his pilgrimage there. And then Damascus, which we call Sham in Syria. And then journey leads him different. All those cities are in part of Turkey now. It's Anatolia, Malatya, Erzincan, Sivas, and Kayseri, Karaman. I guess he stayed there quite a long time, and then he just got married over here, and then went to Konya. Alright, in 1228, at the invitation of Sultan of Seljuks, if you remember the first video that I let you watch, so the Seljuk, it was Turkish originated, Turkic, empire at that time. So the leader, the king, the Sultan of Seljuk Empire, which Alauddin, he invited his family to move Konya. At that time, Konya was the capital of Seljuk Empire. Yeah. All right. Okay. And as soon as they moved to Konya, his father, as I told you, the Sultanul Ulema, the master scholar, he became the father of the head of madrasa, which we call university. Alright, so he lost his dad over there. Throughout this, Rumi studied Sufism for 9 years. Although Rumi had already succeeded to his father's position as a teacher, as a master, as a professor, he attended the companionship of, as I told you, the famous scholars at that time. So Burhanuddin Tirmizi, Muhyiddin Ibn al-Arabi, he was a well-known philosopher, and then Sadruddin Konevi. Rumi studied under them and devoted himself to their service for years. Alright. And this training was focused on divine love and worship, austerity, abstinence, piety, and consciousness of God, and humility. So, and tolerance, which are foundations of Sufism we are talking about. But, there was a time in his life, as I told you, he was the son of very famous scholar, and then he was taught by very famous scholars, and then he became very famous scholars too. But that's the time in his life for change. Shams Tabrizi. The most famous and probably the most fruitful relationship in his development was with Shams Tabrizi, whom he met Konya at the suggestion of another scholar. What we know is that for a particular period of time, especially two skillful and acute spirits came together. Basically, we are going to, especially here, I'll mention. So they influence each other okay, a lot. So they will be able to reach easily on their own. So the place where two first met in Konya is known as Markul Bahrain in Arabic. Markul Bahrain. So basically where the point where two oceans meet. Because Rumi was, very famous, very well educated master, the scholar, and Shams was the leader of inner discipline, we can say. Through their spiritual cooperation, they enlightened those of their own age and have also influenced all centuries that followed. I would say, before he met with Shams al-Tabrizi, I will just read this. His love was hidden in his fear. In Arabic we say taqwa. Before, he met with Shams, his love was hidden in his fear of God. Before Shams. After him, his fear was hidden in his love. Alright, that was the time, for him to get involved philosophy, or we can say mysticism. And before we continue, I would say he was, as I told you, he was very also famous poet at the time. So he wrote a lot of books, and the most famous one, which we know, is called Masnavi. It has, 6 different, scripts, six different books, and he used the way of literacy. We say he chose poems, and then he used couplets. So because it is easy, to maintain, the unity in his work. Rumi spent the next 12 years in Anatolia, and he dictated all 6 volumes of his Masnavi. One of his follower, student. So, that is the original copy in Konya. If you say, basically he lived the territory of, Seljuks. As I told you, Seljuks were Turkic origin empire. But as you know, just like today, in science, the scholars or the academicians, they prefer to use English, for their work. If they want to publish something, if you want to do some works, they choose the language of English. Just like that, at the time when Mevlana lived, the Persian, was the language of literacy. And then he thought that I would reach, more people if I use that language. So that's why he wrote Masnavi in Persian. All right, so basically, before we go to Mevlevi order, which we call Whirling Dervishes, I would say somewhere about the relationship between Shams and Rumi. So basically, as I told you, so they felt, very extreme, radical love in each other. So if I say this love, between two people, between two persons, but this love was beyond gender, beyond sexuality, beyond everything that we know in our regular life. That was the pure love. We can say they become a unique body in each other. So, especially, so they influence each other. And then, after Shams came to Konya, so Rumi was very famous, and then he was, many followers, many students, and every day, okay, he was just preaching them, he was just giving lesson to all students. Once Shams or Shams al-Tabrizi came, he quit everything. He was just spending his all of time, to talk about love, and then to contemplate about the beauty of, everything, every creatures. So that's why, at that time, the students of Rumi, they jealous Shams. So that was the first leaving, that was the first left for Shams, okay, to Konya. And then after Shams left Konya, Rumi, in a way we can say that, okay, he was very upset, okay, he just wanted to be with Shams all the time. That was the time for him, okay, to ask some questions and to listen inside of his heart, and to discover, explore his inner body. Okay. And at that time, so he just used those words. Wherever I put my head, wherever I put my head, that is my place of worship. No matter where I am, that is where God is. So basically, this philosophy in Islam called Wahdid al-Wujud, the unity, the oneness of all things. So, to him, those profess of a love of God must necessarily accompany their statement of love with a sense of furious burning. This is the price one must willingly pay for being close to God or in union with Him. So, and then after that, so this quote was very famous in Turkey, and especially for the one who followed this path. That was the summary of, basically his path. In the beginning, I was raw, and then I am now cooked, or I was cooked, and then finally, I am flame itself. Yeah. So basically, Rumi, he liked to use in his, books and his poetry, he likes to use the symbols and paradox. So basically, we may explain this as a candle paradox. So in Islam we say ilm al-yaqeen, ayn al-yaqeen, and haqq al-yaqeen. So there are three parts, three levels of reaching the purity, the absolute, truth. So the first one starts with learning, to educate the mind. But that is just the beginning step of this whole path. I didn't mention one of the scholar that he was taught by, especially Fahrettin Razi. He learned all the sciences, all the Islamic sciences at that time. But once he met Fahrettin Razi, they were in a place, and there was a pool, and then he was just, answering the questions of Farid Razi. He was proving himself, okay, I am well educated. And then Farid Razi said him. And then, in that kind of person, books are the most valuable things in his life, right? So the most precious things. He said, I want you to throw all of the books that you have into the swimming pool. So that was, okay, the first step, ilm al-yaqin. But this is the beginning step. The mind is the beginning step. And the second one is ayn al-yaqin. So basically the first one, okay, there's a candle, okay, you know about the candle. The second one, ayn al-yaqin, okay, you see a candle. But in the third step, haqq al-yaqin, so you just feel it, you just burn it. That is the final step. And basically this is Rumi's tomb in Konya, especially. And since he was a great scholar, okay, the lover, the beloved, so basically, of course, the way he explained the death is not going to be, normal. Of course, the way he explained the death is going to be also different. So he named the day he passed away as Şebi Arus. So in Turkish we say düğün gecesi, or if we translate it into English, the wedding day. Can you believe that? So he was, explaining his death as wedding day. So he passed away on 17th December of 1273. So every 17th December, the night of Mevlana''s death, thousands of people from all around the world gather at the magnificent 13th century Mevlana Mausoleum to celebrate Şebi Arus and his wedding day. So we may call it his reunion with his beloved, with the divine. That is also another picture. Okay, so we see his opinion of that. It is the time of release from this cage of the body. So he was saying that the soul, okay, just released from the cage of body. The time when the bird of the soul flies free, but it is thus for the soul which has realized the divine within and has become purified of all earthly desires. For those on the path of Mevlana, Şebi Arus is a celebration. It's not a grief, okay? It is a celebration. Like a festival of the beauties being offered every moment to lovers of God. According to Mevlana's teaching, this is a kind of philosophy, human beings are born twice. Once of their mothers and the second time of their own body. The real birth is the second one, the spiritual birth. Mevlevi Dervishes, guided by a spiritual leader, this is a very important point, because if you want to follow this path, you cannot say that, okay, I am going to be the lover, I'm going to choose this path, and so in this path you cannot be alone. There is supposed to be a teacher, there is supposed to be a guide. Otherwise, as I told you, this is a very mystical way, and it's a kind of long way. So there is a possibility that you may get lost. Are expected to live as the member of Mevlevi order, and then according to principles of his teaching. So, all right. So we are going to be watching soon the ceremony of Sema, or Whirling Dervishes. So you're gonna see they have special clothes. So he said that, okay, the cap that they wear on their head is symbolizing the tongue of, you know, carnality, and a white robe, which is its shrub. And yeah, this is the Merdana Museum, and also it's a mosque. Let's watch it first then. they do has a special meaning. So I'm going to explain afterwards. was the very short one. Alright, from a scientific viewpoint, we witness, basically, that contemporary science definitely confirms that the fundamental condition of our existence is to revolve. There is no object or no being which does not revolve, or the shared similarity among being is the revolution of the electrons, protons, neutrons, and the atoms, which constitute the structure of each of them. When you go into the smallest particles, which we cannot see with our eyes, you will see the smallest particles, they revolve. And then, as a consequence of this similarity, everything revolves, and man carries on his life his very existence by means of the revolution in the atoms, structural stones of his body, by the revolution of his blood, by his coming from the earth and return to it, by his revolving with earth itself. It's a kind of connection with the whole universe, and then to lead. Okay. So basically, you watched the ceremony already. So Sema has 7 parts. Sema consists of 7 different parts. Part 1, if you look at the illustration, the picture, once before they start, they just they cross their arms in that position. So the dervish with his headdress is, as I told you before, this is the tombstone of his ego. There is no me. And his white skirt, okay, this is the his ego stroke, and is removing with his black in the beginning. So when they remove, that means spiritually born to the truth, and he journeys and advances there. That is the symbol of, as I told you, second born. At the onset and each stop of Sema, holding his arms crosswise, he represents the number 1 and testifies to God's unity. So this position, this is 1, God's unity. Okay. And while his arms are open, they slowly open their arms. Okay. His right hand directed to the sky, his right hand in that position, directed to the sky, okay, and ready to reach, ready to receive the God's beneficence, the spirituality. Okay, that is basically, if we are talking about mysticism, that is the state of, in Buddhism, nirvana. That is the state of nirvana. They reach absolute truth in that in that position. So, but the Sufi does not stay there. So left hand, turn towards the earth. That means, okay, I received the beneficence from the God. I'm not keeping myself. There's no me. I'm not keeping myself. Okay? I'm just passing those to, the people, the creatures, and all around the world. Part 2, if you hear, drum sounds, okay. So part 2 is a drum voice, symbolizing God's order to the creation. This is the order of B. Part 3 is an instrumental improvisation, taksim, we call it taksim, with a reed flute, or in Turkish we say ney. Also in Persian, it's the same. So it represents the first breath which gives life to everything. The first breath. The divine breath. Part 4 is the dervishes greetings to each other and their thrice repeated circular walk, which we call Dervishes, with the accompaniment of a music called Fisher, and it symbolized the solution of soul to soul, concealed by shapes and bodies. Yeah. Greeting. And part 5, this is the Sema Whirling. It consists of 4 salutes, or salams in Turkish. At the end of each, as in the onset, the dervish testifies by his appearance to God's unity. Okay, the first salute, the first one is the man's birth to truth by feeling and mind, both of them. Not only with, bare mind, but also feeling, with emotions. His complete conception of the existence of God as creator and his state of creature. Alright. The second one, the second salute, expresses the rapture of man witnessing the splendor of creation in front of God's greatness and importance. The third salute is the transformation of rapture into love and thereby the sacrifice of mind to love. The third salute. As I told you, the mind, okay, the learning knowledge, which we keep it in our memory. Okay, that is the beginning step. So in the third salute, so we need to sacrifice mind to the love. It is a complete submission, and it is annihilation of self within the loved one. So this is the states that, okay, you desert yourself, deserting your ego, and then within love and its unity. This state of ecstasy is the highest grade in Buddhism, defined as nirvana. And Islam, we call it fena fillah. However, the highest rank in Islam is the rank of the Prophet. He is called God's servant first and his messenger afterwards. That is a sign. So, that's why the Sufis, those mystics, the aim of Sema is not unbroken ecstasy and loss of conscious thought. At the termination of this salute, he approves again by his appearance and arms crosswise the unity of God consciously and feeling. So he does not stay there. Okay, he reached the point, and then with his conscious, we just came back. All right. So part 6, Sema ends with a reading of Quran, and especially of the verse from Surah Baqarah 2 and verse 115. So Whirling and salutes. And part 7 is a prayer for the repose of the souls of all prophets and all believers. So, as I told you, I would like to show you maybe a few more time.
The acrobat's ring is 1 meter wide. The crowd is 10 times wider, 10 meters across, larger by 1 power of 10. Now, with every step, every ring, we travel 10 times farther from Venice, and our view of the universe is 10 times wider. The 100-meter ring surrounds St. Mark's, and 1,000 meters, 1 kilometer, the city center. As our speed increases, 4 steps, 4 powers of 10, reveal all the islands of Venice, the Adriatic Sea, and the mainland of northern Italy. Six steps take in Europe from central Germany across Italy to the Balkans. And soon we can see the entire planet, our home in space. Eight steps on our outward journey, 8 powers of 10, and we pass the farthest reaches of human travel, the moon. If we visualize the path that the 9 planets take in their orbits around the Sun, at 13 steps from St. Mark's Square, the entire solar system comes into view. And with 15 steps, 15 powers of 10, we can see that our sun is just another star. From here on, our voyage will be measured in light years, the distance light travels in an entire year. Only now do we fly past our nearest neighbor stars, almost 5 light years away. The same journey at the speed of today's spacecraft would last 100,000 years. As we cross the perpetual night, our voyage takes us up and out of our sun's neighborhood, near the edge of a great pinwheel of stars. Actually a spiral galaxy, and our own sun is just one of 100 billion stars in it. At this immense scale, 23 powers of 10, each shining light we see is not a star, but an entire galaxy, composed of countless stars. Astronomers have discovered that the galaxies are flying away from one another. The universe is expanding. Our own galaxy, and all the others, form clusters and superclusters of stupendous size, hundreds of millions of light years across. And here, about 15 billion light years from Venice, we approach the outer limits of the visible universe. What lies beyond this cosmic horizon, we cannot see and do not know. While Galileo's telescope allowed us to take an outward voyage, another innovation here in the Dutch town of Delft would lead us on an inward journey of discovery. Over 3 centuries ago, Antony van Leeuwenhoek perfected the early microscope and used it to study droplets from the waterways of Holland. As students today make their own discoveries, imagine the moment when Van Leeuwenhoek peered through his more powerful instrument and discovered a living kingdom in a drop of water. This busy world of single-cell paramecia is only 1 millimeter across, 3 pounds of tin smaller than a meter. The microscope allows us to continue our journey into the realm of the very small. As we move into the cell nucleus, each new ring now reveals a world 10 times smaller in diameter than the last. Deep within the nucleus, we come upon truly remarkable constructions, long, spiraling molecules of DNA. DNA holds the chemical codes for the reproduction of most organisms on the planet, whether they're paramecia, people, or petunias. Voyaging on, we see that molecules are made of even smaller parts called atoms. The tiny world of the carbon atom is very strange indeed. Its 6 electrons seem to swarm everywhere at once. Now our voyage takes us through a void that appears as vast as the space between the stars. Ahead lies the atomic nucleus, so fantastically small that if the whole atom were the size of this theater, its nucleus would be like a speck of dust. Yet the nucleus contains almost all of the atom's mass, packed into particles called protons and neutrons. And these, in turn, are made of still smaller, mysterious things called quarks. Exploring this, the inner frontier of the universe, physicists wonder if quarks might contain even tinier building blocks of matter.
Yeah, especially in the 13th century. At the time, there were, the science was not that developed, and then they didn't know the vast and then the perfect, outer world, and also inner world. So, okay, from beginning to end, as I told you, that is the manifestation of all Sufis to part of this universe, and then, say the God is everywhere, and then, if you remember, in the beginning, it said, wherever I, turn my head, I see God everywhere. So he just did that. Alright, so I guess that's the end. Alright, I hope you enjoyed.